So, we've got a belay. Ba, 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 ba. Not convinced about that little rock actually. Sounds a little bit hollow. The nuts are really good, but yeah, you can hear it. You hear the noise. Yeah, there you go. It's got a slightly different sound. It just tells me that it's a small little block. It is keyed in quite well by the rock around it, but there's a bigger crack down here. And there's a nicer crack up here with bigger rocks. So let's see if there's something that inspires a little bit more confidence. Give it a nice seat. That looks good. Two bomber nuts in a much better crack with much more solid rock. So that gives me a lot more confidence. Got a nice ledge down here. What we're going to do is create what we call a single point and anchor. So I've got two really good wires, and then I'm going to connect them together with a sling, which will equalise the load that's being placed onto both of them. And when Joe comes up, he's just going to clip into that centralised location, and it makes the changeover then much easier. If Joe was going to lead through, then I would tie in with the rope directly to reduce the amount of links that I'm putting in the safety chain. But this is just going to make life a little bit less complicated for us in winter. Okay, Joe, safe! So turning the belay plate round, the carabiner round, I've got the belay plate orientated. The teeth are going to be on the uphill side, so it's ready to receive the rope. Doing all of that before I put the rope in. Keeping everything connected because I'm in gloves, so that I don't fumble anything and drop it. And now what I can do is just push that rope in. So during that process I'm not likely to drop the belay plate. Let's get rid of that little bit of slack there. Climb when ready, Joe! Just make sure that rope stays snug between the two of us. You're probably going to climb a wee bit faster than I can belay up here. Great. Okay. Hold on. Do you want to just drop into that ledge just below you? Down into your right there. Yeah. Lovely. Is that nice and flat?
Yeah.
Maybe even go a little bit further to your right, and then you can get both feet at the same level. It's always nice on a belay. I know you had nice footprints there, but maybe further up, you're going to find your calves are coming into play a little bit more. So on the belay, if you can get both feet at the same height on a nice flat ledge like that, it just gives you a chance to have a breather, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Grand. Yeah, maybe pop that right out of the way. So maybe on the other side. Yeah, and then there's no way the rope can flick. Yeah, in there's good, as long as those loops don't get it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, good. All right, marvellous. So I'm going to head up here now. These gullies can be quite long without a belay. So in winter, it's quite nice to make the most of a belay whenever you see one, particularly here in the Cairngorms where the routes are not massively long here in Corrigan-Schnecter, so we can do things in lots of short pitches. It means you and I can communicate and neither of us gets too cold because we're moving fairly quickly. As we start to get into the bigger parts of the gullies, you might find I'm running more rope out. So what's really quite nice, particularly on a day like today when we can communicate, is when I get to about 5 metres of rope left, just give me a holler. Okay. Yeah, and then it means I know at that point I need to look for a belay.
Right.
If the rope goes tight, if we run out of rope completely and it does jam up tight against your belay plate, just stay there, just hold on. I'll feel that, and then I'll come back down and try and build a belay below me, so you might find then you have to take in. All right with all of that?
Yeah, sure.
Winner. So first thing I'm going to do up here, what's the first thing I'm going to do up here if I can? Yeah, get some gear in and protect the belay. Some nice cracks here, but the gully comes round the side there, so I'm going to get a bit of rope drag from that. So I think I am just going to go pop the other side of this corner and pop something in the wall there.
Yep.
Grand. One of the things you end up doing on grade 1 gullies is potentially doing much longer run outs. So I'm looking at my next belay, which I think is quite a long way up the gully, and it comes away from the rock, the gully comes away. So I'm not going to get any protection in between there and the belay, and that's a good sort of 15 metres without any kit. So I'm going to make the most of these last 2 bits of rock and try and get some protection in, and then just accept that I'm going to be super careful for that long section and not fall off. Obeying rule number 1 at all times. Yeah, that looks good. You like that? It's great with the rock being so dry, you know, these cracks aren't iced up. So it's much easier placing the protection. If they were icy, I'd have to work a lot harder to clean out the cracks, to make sure that the nuts were seated actually on rock and, you know, not on the ice where they could just slither out. Here we go. Let's try one of those in there. Oh, look at that. Marvellous. There we go, another one of those long extenders on that. That's one of those offsets. I just tried the walnuts first, and that crack is doing exactly that sort of flaring thing, and it wouldn't sit properly, and just pop that offset in there and it seats beautifully. That's grand. I don't get super paranoid about doing screw gates up on running belays. If it's on a belay, an actual stance, great, I'd do the screw gate up. On this sort of side of things where I'm just using it as a spare crab, it's fine, leaving it undone, and it's a little bit less faff for Joe in his gloves, so making our movement a little bit swifter because we want to get to the top and off before it gets dark. Told very early on in my climbing career, winter climbing career, never to walk past a winter belay. Possibilities in the crack up there. Just going to have a good look around rather than jumping at the first thing. Have a good look around. Oh, that crack looks nicer. Let's now for a bit of working room. Oh yeah, we're going to get some good nuts in there, I think. And I could go on a bit further, but it's nice to keep the picture short, the communication easy. Always looking for 2 really bomb-proof nuts. That first one's gone in really good into a nice constriction. So the angle of any load on that's going to maximise the placement, not compromise it. So I'm really happy with that one. But I'm going to see if I can get another one in as well. That's a bit small. See if we can get a second one in there. Good. Brilliant. So again, just seating it, making sure it's biting, doing that really nicely on this granite, and then same again, gonna equalise that with a sling. I'm going to use a longer sling because that's going to allow me to step down a little bit more comfortably to that nice ledge at the bottom there. So again, turning the carabiners down and around so that the gate is away from the rock, can't compromise it. Again, pushing the slings in rather than trying to open the gates all the time. So I've double checked those because I'm going to move away from the belay now and I don't want to have to come back up to it. The last thing I'm going to do, the stitching there, I'm going to make sure that sits at the top. It's a bit like buttered toast falling off the kitchen table. It always ends up face side down. The stitching always ends up in the place you don't want it. So I'm going to keep it up there. That way when I go down to tie the knot, I know it's not going to cause me a problem. So that looks good. So equalising the two wires. And then going to isolate them by popping a knot in the sling. Making sure it's big enough to receive a couple of screw gates. I want that one from a clove hitch, so I'm going to save that one there. And there's the other one. Do go through screw gates quite rapidly. It's worth having a fair few on your harness. Going to push my rope into that carabiner there and do it up so I don't have to come back up to it. Being efficient. Step back down onto this nice ledge. And then I'm thinking about where Joe's going to go. I want to go up there next, so it makes sense for Joe to be on the right and me to be on the left, then we don't get the ropes crossed over. I'm going to tie my clove hitch, making the loops nice and big. Just makes life a lot easier when you're playing around in your gloves. Get that nice and tight. Happy with all that. Final check. Safe, Joe!